been shut down at this particular time. And with me is an amazing person. I've got to spend a few minutes talking to her. That's why I'm saying amazing 3 times. She's a first officer pilot. Of course, also doubling up as one of the managers at KQ, dealing with the travel and safety. And of course, we shall be making sure that we get to hear what she has to say at this particular time, how the airline has been affected. We all know that it has been affected. And of course, it's an amazing time to discuss some of this and to get you to understand what's happening. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Martin.
We normally shake hands, so I'm going to say karibu sana. Oh, namaste.
Yes, namaste.
All right. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So I forgot to say your name. Her name is Amy Kiiru. She's gonna say it again how it's supposed to be said, especially the second name. I don't want people saying my second name unnecessarily. But then my second name is Motegi. I also say it. I don't say it very well. My family name is Motegi. It's not Mutegi. It's Motegi. Definitely. Kindly, if you don't mind, you can tell us your name and what you do. Say hi to the viewers.
Okay.
And let's do this.
Good morning, everybody. Amy Kiiru, First Officer, Kenya Airways. I'm also the safety manager for Kenya Airways.
Amazing. Amy Kiiru. I said it
correct,
right now.
Yes.
Amazing. I'm going to begin with a very simple question. Many of us, growing up, I wanted to be a pilot.
Okay.
But, things happen over time.
I did too. But here we are.
Shots fired, no shield. I am dead. It's good to have you. Tell us, many people want to understand what happens in the airline. First of all, how is it working on an airline? I know being a pilot, just working in the airline industry. How is it? Now that we had a small this conversation before coronavirus.
Yes.
Let's begin it before coronavirus.
Pre-coronavirus.
Yeah, pre-coronavirus.
Yes. Working in the aviation industry it's a very interesting field. Aviation is generally very interesting because is as much as a lot of people focus on the flying, there's a lot that also happens to make that work. The flying is the end product of what most people get to interact with, and the passengers come in and get onto our aircraft. But before we can get to that point, there's a lot of different things working in the background to be able to make that work. Yeah.
Amazing. So you double up as a safety manager and a pilot as well. So
correct.
At times you're in the air,
Yes.
at times you're on land, preparing all these guys for safety before they get to go on air.
Yes.
In media, on air means something different. That's why I got stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
What's the difference, and how do you make sure safety is safety in the aviation industry, as I get to understand the very small details?
Yes.
The very minute details are very key.
Yes.
How is it? Just give us a brief exposure to that.
Okay. We cannot overlook anything. We usually say there's a model to how you get to an incident or an accident. And you have to make sure you close down all the loopholes that are there before you get to that point. So in aviation, we are very focused on ensuring that we close all little gap holes, as little and as small as they might appear. They might have a ripple effect to have a larger effect down the line. So we'd rather deal with it as it's a small issue before it escalates into something bigger that runs out of control. So we are very prone, and you'll see the entire industry as a whole is very safety aware. Everybody knows that it is their role and responsibility to make sure that they ensure safety of their workplace, safety of what they're doing, actions, following procedures as they are set, to make sure that things run as they are planned to. Because the minute you skip a part of the procedure, you don't know why that part was there. So we are very keen on making sure SOPs are followed, so that we make sure that all the hazards that could have been blocked before they get to become worse.
Someone else in the background saying SOP, SOP is
standard operating procedure. I'm sorry.
Definitely. And of course, with an example, I would want us to focus on safety first for the customer, because now for you and for everyone else working, safety is all round.
Yeah.
And there's safety for the customer, there's
Yes.
safety for the staff.
Staff,
themselves.
correct.
That's the two sides, right?
And third parties, and
third
we look at
parties.
it's very holistic. Yes.
So let's begin with the customer, of course,
Sure.
who keeps you in the business and keeps the business running. Give us a picture, give us a small picture of what happens. A number of people have not boarded flights to go anywhere.
Yeah.
They want a bit of experience of that, so that if time comes for them, they will be quite prepared.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So part of passenger safety is what we do more in the aircraft, trying to prepare for you to come in and be able to conduct your flight safely. So things that come into that, things like ensuring aircraft are maintained properly to the appropriate standard, ensuring our crew are trained, and that also everybody goes through their regular refresher. We go through first aid, we go through things what we call drills, where if you are to ditch, you learn how to save people from the water, things like that. So there's a lot of training, there's a lot of maintenance that goes into ensuring by the time you're coming into an into an environment that is ready for you in terms of safety. All the areas have been looked at, all the items have been checked. Yes. And we also go through working with external authorities. We have to work well with our Civil Aviation Authority, because they are a governing body. We fly to foreign countries, so we also have to comply with their rules and regulations wherever it is we go. So there's a lot of reading and a lot of learning that goes into aviation to make it what it is and ensure it's safe. If you look at the statistics, aviation is the safest way to travel.
Okay.
Globally.
Yeah.
The number of accidents compared vis-a-vis to the road or rail or water, it is the safest way to travel.
You know that's not how it registers in our minds, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true, because that one incident will be really blown up. However, if we were to look at our road or rail or water, safety is highest in mode of transport of air.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a moment of silence. Oh, you just like there looking at the sea down there. That's the safest place you can ever be.
It's the safest place.
Definitely, and of course, many engineers, working with many engineers who make sure there are no holes in the aircrafts themselves.
Yes.
And making sure that we get to be safety.
Yes.
But now, business has been good, as we're not talking pre-corona virus period. Things have been moving quite well.
Yeah.
But we are in a situation right now, not just as KQ, but our nation, and things are not good. How is it for you guys? Because just from the picture, you guys are the gate. And everyone is looking at you as the gate. You're right there. You're the ones bringing in people, taking people out, cargo coming in, cargo going out. You're the people who are likely, and some of the very first people who are actually affected by the virus.
Yeah.
Or the people working in the airline.
Yeah.
How has it been for you guys?
Well, it hasn't been easy. I don't think it's been easy for anybody, irrespective of the industry that you're in. But we started tuning on to coronavirus or COVID-19 earlier in the year, around January, when we were doing our flights to the eastern parts of the world. We started sensitizing our staff and our crew at that point, because we could see it's something that was affecting that particular region. So we were able to, send out information on what it is, what it is, what it's about, how it's transmitted, based on the information we'd gathered at that time that was shared. Remember, at that time, it had not been declared a pandemic at all by WHO. So it was just more of being precautious and sensitizing our crew, because we do go and spend the night there when we fly that direction. So just to get people aware of, this is what's happening in this part of the world, you need to be aware, this is what you need to do be able to keep yourself safe. And we ended up having to transmit that information across the globe as we saw it change with time. And it ended up really affecting the airline industry because it more or less shut down movement, travel. So the world over, not necessarily just Kenya, the airline industry is almost come to a halt. A majority of the flights that are happening now are essential flights and cargo flights.
And what are those essential flights?
Essential flights is where they're moving medical personnel, they're moving people who need to be transported from one place to another due to the nature of their job. Those are the ones that we are considering, or that's what we call essential flights.
And of course, to cope with this pandemic, you have had to introduce new protocols in your workplace to protect not just the people, but your own selves. Because most people in the service industry are more focused on the customer. Sometimes we forget about ourselves. And what are some of those things that you have introduced to make sure that you get to fight this particular disease as a body?
Okay. So initially we had focused on sensitizing our operational crew, but over time we've had to sensitize the people who are in our offices, working in our hangars, the engineers, and everybody else, people working at our customer service desks, our check-in agents as well, because now it's become an issue that affects everybody across the board. So we went around sensitizing, distributing personal protective equipment, PPEs, which is, I'm glad it's a occupational health and safety term that is now, everybody knows what it means. So we've had to go around sensitizing how, distributing them, number one, and also how to wear them properly, how to dispose of them properly, and you know, how long should you have it. If you're suffering these symptoms, we have a hotline at Kenya Airways for our own internal staff that you can report on, and then our medical team then comes, picks up and follows through.
Survival is key at this particular time, not just for the airline industry, but for everybody who is living and breathing at this particular time. A few minutes ago, you told me something that is really a shock to me at this particular time, that South African airline has shut down like completely.
Yes.
What is KQ doing to survive? Because survival is key. What is KQ doing?
Well, currently, I think we're the most, the airline industry is the most fragile right now, because we've scaled down on majority of our operations. So we're trying to think outside the box of what else can we do to be able to sustain ourselves and generate a little bit of revenue that can push us on further. So we've picked up a lot of cargo flights. We've converted some of our passenger aircraft to be able to carry cargo as well, because that is what is currently moving in the world. So we've picked up a lot of that, and we're picking up a few charters here and there that can be found where people request for charter flights. Like we had one for the Britons that we evacuated them from Kenya to London as of last week, Friday. So whichever ones we can get, that's what we're trying to do, to try and keep ourselves afloat, generate a little bit of revenue we can to help us see another day.
Any salary cuts, maybe some luxuries that you have had to put aside?
It was very well publicized about Kenya Airways taking salary cuts, and that's something that's affected most industries. We're fortunate at Kenya Airways that we haven't had any layoffs so far, and the salary cut is something that was accepted across the board, and that's what, as employees, we have to give back in order to get from. So take the salary cut, be able to save money for the airline so we can be able to operate longer, because that's where we get our bread and butter from.
I love what you said about giving back to get from.
Correct.
Amazing. And I think that's the same thing Jack Ma is doing as well. Jack Ma is giving back to the people, and it's very commendable, because we made him what he is. Definitely. Now, I mentioned something about us being prophets of the future, and I would say prophets with quotes, in quotes. Of course, we want to project on what we are bound to meet as we continue to stay in this particular state, and what are the measures you guys have put in place to make sure that should any other pandemic come, that we are better prepared to fight it and to be more safety cautious?
Okay. So from the aviation world, as Kenya Airways, we have what we call an emergency response plan. And our emergency response plan or emergency response program deals with any unforeseen circumstances that might happen in the future. And we're able to deal with that as an emergency, exactly as it is. So a pandemic has always been a part of our list of emergency response plan for what might come up that we need to deal with.
Yeah.
So we have procedures in place that, and people are trained on how to handle this. So we have procedures in place, and what we do, we can no longer operate as usual. We have to switch to emergency mode and be able to operate in that mode until we come back to business as usual. So we're currently running on what we call business continuity plans, BCPs, because this is not the normal. Yes. So then organization has moved into business continuity plans to be able to make sure that we're dealing with, as much as we're dealing with the pandemic as it is right now, we're still able to continue business in the little areas that we can. Yes, we've scaled down operations. A lot of people are working from home. We don't have people in the workplace other than essentials. Even the shift patterns have changed, and you know, screening while you're coming in at the gate. We put in certain procedures in place to ensure that the safety of our workplace is maintained, and the people who do come to work are able to continue working and maintaining the airline standard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. As we wind up, quite on a sad note, we lost one of our pilots, and one of your pilots. That's what my director wants me. I love to associate with people, but yeah, one of your pilots sadly lost his life. Something quite sad, because he was you know, on the line of duty, you know, just bringing people. I'm not saying he died on the line of duty, but he was bringing people from outside to come back to Kenya.
Yeah.
And of course, trying to save people. That's an act of salvation, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And as I said before, people in the service industry focus more on the customers, and sometimes they forget about themselves.
Yeah.
As a pilot, we want to make sure we don't lose any more of you guys. What are you doing as a pilot to make sure that you protect your own self first? You know, of course, coming from the front, you know, there's something that circulated a few months ago about how, actually from your industry, where just before you put that mask, I'm talking about the oxygen mask.
Yes.
Just before you put the oxygen mask to people in case of an emergency in a flying aircraft, you put a mask on yourself.
Yes.
So you're able to have the strength to serve
Help
more
somebody
people.
else, correct.
And of course, this is something. This question is directed to you as a pilot on how you are prepared, and how the measures you're doing to make sure that you stay safe, not just for now, but for the future days as a pilot.
Okay. So I think maybe I'll start addressing with the current times. So what we're doing is we have started testing of all our crew. So they're going for the COVID testing, and then once they test negative is when we're putting them on flight. So we are trying to ensure that we do not have any people who might be infected in the aircraft to begin with, and interacting with other members of crew and possibly other members of staff if they've been found to be COVID positive tested. And so we have the test in place. Once you're tested and your test comes back negative, then you're able or available to be crewed for a flight. Once you come on board, we have specific packs of PPEs for all our crew. So each crew gets a pre-packed bag with all their personal protective equipment, which is your masks, your gloves, your full gowns for the people who are front facing, which is our cabin crew, and also the eye shield or the face shield as well. And that is just to be able to continue operations in this times and to protect our crew, because they are our number one priority. Because should we not have crew, we will not have passengers. So we have to learn to protect ourselves first, and then we will be able to protect others. The same way you say you wear your mask first, you have to wear your mask first before you assist somebody else. So that is what we have in place to be able to protect our staff, and that spreads from the people on board to the people handling the flight. Our ground ramp operators, our engineers are also have their own protective equipment provided by the company to be able to do their work sufficiently and to maintain safety. Yeah.
One of the statements of statements of life that I have as a person, if charity doesn't begin at home, then it doesn't make sense elsewhere. And of course, it's something that you guys are looking to achieve right now, to make sure that as you serve other people, you serve them in and with safety.
Yes.
At this particular time, I want you to go back to your camera, give your final remarks, and tell people what health and safety at this particular time means to you and means to the world, and a word of advice also for people who are still working like ourselves.
Okay. Yeah. Today marks the World Day of Safety and Health in the Workplace. So I would like to urge anybody who is still going to work, or people who are still actually working on site or outside of their homes, to be more cautious and take all the precaution for yourself and for others to ensure that you maintain safe. So keep your social distancing, wash your hands frequently, refrain from hugs and greeting hands, and follow whatever standards there are that are recommended by the WHO to ensure that you maintain safety of yourself and your workplace.
Amazing.